Welcome, everybody, and thanks again for joining us on another episode of the Lyme Boss podcast. Today is absolutely incredible. We got Dr. Lauryn Lax joining us with us, and she's going to be diving in deeper into the gut-brain reset and how to heal your body with your mind. What? I love talking about all kinds of things, alternative and kind of a little outside of the box, because that's usually where I found that people find true long-lasting health, right? So I'm Heather Gray, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, certified bioenergetic practitioner, and let's give everybody a warm welcome to Dr. Lauryn Lax. Hey, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Super pumped to be here.
Absolutely. I love all my Mindshare peeps. Every single one of you have had such an amazing story and have just been so generous on the podcast with your wealth, with your information. I adore that community so much. It's ridiculous.
Likewise. I think I filmed or recorded 200 plus podcasts during the pandemic, lockdown with Mindshare people and extensions of it. So I definitely relate to that.
That's awesome. I'm only on, I think, episode 72 right now. So that's some props. You're over 200.
That's huge.
Do you still have one?
I'm actually launching a new one in the fall called Go With Your Gut, the Go With Your Gut podcast.
Love it. Well, I'll have to be looking out for that. But let's dive into, I found that most folks that are kind of in this alternative practitioner world got there because of a story, right? So I would love for you to just give us a little bit of background on who you are, what makes you tick, and what got you into talking about the gut-brain reset.
Definitely. So I'm Dr. Lauryn, functional medicine doctor. I oftentimes say, though, former TV news journalist gone health detective by way of my own 25 plus year long journey with over 13 incurable illnesses and air quotes that diets, dogmas, doctors, and Dr. Google could not solve. And my journey really dates back to age 10 years old, fourth grade recess. And all I wanted to do at that time was fit in. And was frizzy hair, pink scrunchie my mom made me wear. And just remember that day at fourth grade recess, the popular girls inviting me to join their gossip circle, where they're laughing at Melanie Strawn's ugly sweater and gawking over Eric Arthur's cute, freckly face and floppy ears. And lo and behold, the topic of weight came up that day. And the queen bee says, "Oh my gosh, you guys, I weighed myself last night and I'm 69 pounds, so fat." And then turning to each of us and saying, "What do you weigh?" And one by one, we had to go around the gossip circle and report to our drill sergeant. And when the circle got to me at a healthy 80 pounds, I remember just staring down at my feet and gulping and lying and saying, "I don't know." And I'll never forget going home that day, standing in the pantry and turning over my favorite Doritos snack pack that I ate every day and learning a brand new language, which is fat, grams, and calories. And at age 10, my life path took a very sharp turn. And little did I realize I would spend the next 15 years overtly on a roller coaster of all these different diets and dogmas and protocols and just all searching to feel good in my own skin. And did every diet under the sun. I say I was a trendsetter before, we have keto, we have carnivore nowadays. We have obviously vegan, plant-based movement. Before any of the popularity of these diets, I was trying them all and really spent 4 years accumulated during that time in and out of living in hospitals and treatment centers overtly. I say, behind bars.
I was actually just getting ready to ask. I'm at the age of 10, would you say that you developed an eating disorder?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, the words anorexia came out of my pediatrician's mouth within the next, 6 months of that journey, because I was losing my hair. I was developing skin rashes on my legs. I lost 10 pounds, just out of nowhere. So, that it became very much a diagnosis, a label that I assumed, and I took on that Sherpa bag. And so I lived in two worlds. One was treatment world and one was my diet eating disorder world. And for me, my eating disorder was really about a sense of control. It became a sense of identity, a sense of achievement, a sense of worth. So I began to find a lot of my needs, what I call now gut hungers, through my eating disorder. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, when I would go into treatments, I'd say hospitals and treatment centers where I would stay anywhere from 3 months to 6 months to a year, where the total opposite lifestyle was happening. So Pop-Tarts, pizza, and Prozac is the model of eating disorder treatment,
Oh
where
my
we're
gosh.
treating the symptoms, kind of like we see, a person that's overweight just move more and eat less, and that doesn't always work. Or a person with a lifestyle-induced chronic disease is oftentimes just, take a pill for an ill. My symptoms were treated with what made the most sense for food freedom and weight gain, which is processed foods, obviously. So at a young age, I began to develop this healthy skeptic, just like mindset around like, I know my eating disorder isn't healthy for me. Like my body's not well, and I'm almost dying many times throughout that journey. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, when Big Bertha is standing over me, telling me to eat 4 Pop-Tarts on my tray that morning, and I end up like vomiting because my body can't handle it, there was a curiosity that developed at an early age too, and a skepticism around symptom-based treatment. And so I'm actually very thankful for the journey, because it really did tee me up for the work that I'm doing today, and being a skeptic on both ends of the spectrum, both in diet and health culture or healthcare culture. And really from a functional medicine perspective, just looking to the root causes versus treating symptoms. And so that journey went on, say, up until age 23, fast forward, when I found myself going into my second year of grad school. I'd actually started to go for my doctorate in occupational therapy after working in the newsroom for previous 4 years and deciding if it bleeds, it leads. It wasn't for me. And I stepped on the scale that morning, and only to see a number I had not seen since I was that 10-year-old girl. Only this time, again, I was 23, a full-fledged adult, and no one was standing over my shoulder. My parents weren't telling me, like, Lauryn, like they weren't there anymore. My doctors weren't saying you have to go in. I was living my life, and something inside me in that morning was just like, is this all my life is about? And what do I really want? And it explained all the chest pains I'd been feeling the past several months, and the gut writhing pains I would have every time I would eat anything, even like, my broccoli and turkey patty I was eating every day, and the stress fractures on my feet. And on my way to the gym that morning at age 23, I remember praying, God, help me make a change today. I yelled that out loud. And to me, a change meant help me eat a tablespoon of almond butter more, help me work out 30 minutes less on my Stairmaster. And when I got to the gym at the YMCA in Nashville that morning, not one, but 9 other strangers walked up, or 9 gym goers, and they stepped in and they spoke up and said they wanted to help. And they knew nothing about my backstory and all I had been through. All they saw was a girl every day slaving on her Stairmaster for hours on end. I was spending 8 hours in the gym at that time and subsisting on very little, say like 500 calories a day. And it was no longer about weight loss or trying to get Eric Arthur to like me or the other little girls to be me. It really had just become an identity and a way I operated and a habit. And I just didn't know how to break free from it. And so
Well, did you say that when you worked in the newsroom, so you were an anchor, right?
I was a reporter and a producer.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that, so in front of the camera. So I can't help but wonder if that lifestyle, kind of fed into that, right? Because you have to have a certain image. Like those people are like the beautiful of the beautiful, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely culture did. And as it does for a lot of us women too. I mean, I was a child of the 90s as well, where I'm looking at like Rachel Green on Friends and Courtney Cox wanting to be them, or like the Olsen twins. Like I idolized whoever, Cosmo magazine. Now it's like definitely Instagram influencers, I think, is who probably girls are more comparing themselves to. But that was my childhood. And then definitely like both the newsroom or persona, as well as just like in the fitness culture, just really wanting to, be a bikini model on a fitness magazine. So there was all these dangling carrots, definitely from a body image perspective that played a role. And yet it was like, I was the furthest from that, just in such an unwellness state anyways, just definitely not healthy in skin and bones. And, within 48 hours of those individuals stepping into my life, I found myself in the CCU with a heart rate in the near 20s and doctors saying I may not make it. And I know without a doubt, had those individuals not stepped in, who I now call my YMCA angels, that I would not be here today. And in that moment when doctors are rushing around and saying, we may need to call a code blue, and monitors are beeping, and my parents are just praying to God out loud, something inside me was so calm, and it just like clicked. It was, the answer isn't out there, Lauryn, it's in here. And like, I like say in the core of who I am, which like, again, I love the gut so much, and not just physically, but the gut is connected to our head, our health, and our heart. And so getting back to like the core of who I was and identity wise and a worth and gut love, so to speak, became a big part of my journey out of that eating disorder, and really just like learning to see myself as I was created to be and find my purpose in life outside of, being this number one dieter that I was at that time. So I spent the next year in hospitals and treatment centers again, same like wash, rinse, repeat, but something inside me had changed in that moment. And so I determined life was going to be different on the other side. I had no idea what that was going to look like. It was a lot of, learning to crawl and then walk and run again in life, because life had been really, my eating disorder raised me, and it just really stripped a lot from my childhood and teen and early 20s experiences as well. So it just, as I emerged from treatment, I went out to Miami. It was really like learning how to do life for the first time, and do life and make community, and learn how to like nourish myself. And eating disorder treatment really did not teach me any of those skills as far as nourishing myself back to health. They definitely pumped me up where I could, and I did gain weight that I needed to gain, et cetera, but didn't really teach me healthy lifestyle habits that I now teach my patients, that I learned on the back end of that journey. And very thankful that I stumbled into an amazing community down in Miami that actually happened to be through CrossFit as a gateway that then led me to functional medicine at the time. Like CrossFit, paleo world was pretty popular within that at that time. So then Chris Krusser's work became very something on my radar, who was kind of a godfather of functional medicine movement. And so I was introduced to that model, and it really began, I call it underground medical school, where I began to heal my body, because after an eating disorder, after years of just chronic dieting and not taking care of yourself, whether you're like living in overtly diet culture or like standard American diet and just like not treating your body well on either end, like I really began to climb out of that. And so functional medicine really helped me with healing my gut, my hormones, my immune system, and just learning about all of those things, the pathways. Little did I realize, though, on the back end of my eating disorder, I would be diagnosed with these 12 plus incurable illnesses that, again, diets, dogmas, doctors, Dr. Google could not solve. And it was really just because both eating disorder and treatment to heal me wrecked my gut. And so I 5 autoimmune diseases, hypothyroidism, Lyme, molds, workups for cancers and brain tumors and stroke, like symptoms that I would go into the ER for, like just all mast cell activation syndrome. The list really went on. And, Mayo Clinic wouldn't even take me. Cleveland Clinic turned me away because my case was too complex. And that journey really began to come to a head almost 10 years later, when I found myself again flat on my back on a hospital bed with a doctor saying, Lauryn, there's times conventional medicine will fail you. This is one of them. And what had sent me there was what I thought was a heart attack, was a very severe asthma attack that I woke up at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night. And lo and behold, something inside me in that moment flickered mold. And I honestly do believe it's like from the above that idea was even planted in my head. No, I had seen functional medicine experts over the course of this workup time as well, where I was getting sick. No one really like looked at that. That was not on the radar. And so the next day hired an inspector, came, lo and behold, black mold all in the HVAC where I was living and had lived for the previous 3 years as well. So it was kind of like the just straw that broke the camel's back was the mold journey after all of that. And it really, again, underground medical school. So thankful for all of the journey, because it really taught me about getting to root causes, healing the mechanisms of the body versus just, again, like green allopathy, even like take a supplement for an ill or just do one lab test and like triage what you find. I began to see the body as a whole. And really
it's not shocking to me. I mean, it is, but it isn't, because I've never heard the weight disorder, trial. So
Yeah.
it's fascinating because I mean, it really is no different than a lot of the gaslighting and the weird way that we treat allopathically with other things, but the thought that you could be healed with Prozac and Pop-Tarts like that, I'm still just reeling over. You've taken a sick person and then you're just adding more poison and toxic crap onto their skin. It's horrific. And that's why we do these types of podcasts, right? Is to
Exactly.
spread the word that type of stuff is not normal, it's not acceptable, and it's not going to lend itself to health, right?
100%. So that's kind of the journey.
Absolutely. It's so everybody, man, what a freaking story. It sounds a lot like my own, but most Lyme mold clients have that kind of difficult, long backstory. We're going to pause right now for a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to dig deeper into how she healed herself and how you can use the gut brain reset to totally heal your body with your mind. So stay tuned. Hey there. I used to not be able to drink coffee. I always reacted to it horribly. It hurt my stomach. It made me over jittery and would inflame me and cause histamine issues. But not anymore. Since I started drinking Danger Coffee by Dave Asprey. It's his next level of coffees. He came out with Bulletproof, and now this is the next level up. So it is mold-free, toxin-free, and he infuses it with minerals and electrolytes. So unlike other coffees, they can actually pull minerals and electrolytes from your system because it's too acidic. It actually helps replenish those. And so I don't react to it at all. I get to have my Bulletproof coffee with my MCC oil and my grass-fed butter, and I don't get the jitters, I don't get the crashes, and I love how focused and energized it makes me feel. Again, non-toxic, mold-free, infused with minerals and electrolytes. I absolutely love Danger Coffee. Make sure to check out my website, thelymeBoss.com. Go to the resource section and get yours. Awesome. Welcome back, everybody. If you were not here during the first half, I highly recommend going back and listening to it because it'll give you a little bit of a background on what this amazing doctor has been through and why she does what she does, because holy cow, kudos to you. So let's get a little deeper into the type of work that you do now, how you did end up, reversing these autoimmune, the mold, the Lyme, all the fun stuff, and then diving deeper into how you can heal your body with your mind.
Yeah, definitely. Not a light question, but
right?
It's interesting when I think back to the journey, both from my eating disorder and then all the mold, the Lyme, multiple illnesses. There were two pivotal days that I distinctly remember that helped me with both of those. And it was the moment that I made the decision to be well. And there's a verse in the Bible or like a passage where Jesus talks to this paralytic man that's laying at the well or at the pool, and he's been lame forever. He can't walk. And he just says, get up your mat and walk. You are well. If you believe, you want to be well. And so there was just a distinct shift when I decided, what do I really want, or asked myself that, and then decided I not only want to be well, but I am well. And where our focus goes, our energy flows. And really began to practice more of a towards versus an away mindset. And so how the subconscious mind works is we can want the same thing, but depending on where that focus is where the result's going to come. So for example, if say you don't want to be in debt, or and you're focused on that, I don't want debt, I don't want debt, I don't want debt. A lot of times what happens is we may pull away from that, but we still are in scarcity mindset where we're constantly that's kind of a ball and chain. Whereas if we do an about face and the person says, I want abundance, I want wealth, and they begin to think with a growth mindset, they're like a bullet and they run in that direction. I think of Tony Robbins' story is a great example of someone that came from poverty, a couple times actually. And he just focused, he will oftentimes say, I channeled Tony Robbins by deciding to become Tony Robbins. And so kind of similarly with our health, weight would be a great example. You may know someone in your life that's never can lose the last 10 to 20 pounds for the life of them.
That's me.
And it's common. And there can be this yo-yo or diet, maybe a season, but for some reason, why do we go back? Many layers there. A lot of times though, what I find is it's a focus. I don't want to be this weight, or I don't want to feel like this, or I don't want whatever it is. It's kind of like pushing a wall. We're just trying to push it down, and we're so focused on what we don't want versus if we do that about face, like who is healthy, thriving me? And like, what does she feel like? And getting into that as if mindset, as if I already have lost that 10 to 20 pounds. And like, how does she speak to herself? How does she feel when she wakes up in the morning? And when we begin to embody that more towards mindset and just like focusing more on what we want and being her, we become her. And so when I was going through all the mold and Lyme, I thought back in my little Rolodex of like, what really helped me make that shift from eating disorder to like being well, when most eating disorders, like I was always told I would have to manage it and I would just learn to live with it. I would always have the thoughts. I would always struggle with it. It would be a thorn in my flesh. And I feel completely like just, it's a chapter in the story now. I don't really feel connected to it.
Don't you love those little self-defeating, seeds that lights a plant in your head? Like
that's a
I was
story
a
already.
smoker for 25 years and I got told by everybody else too that you will always crave a cigarette. You will never get rid of the wanting. I never, even through this crazy divorce, like I've not once thought I want a cigarette. Like it's not a part of my life anymore. It's not in my story anymore.
Yeah. So we are the stories we tell ourselves. And a lot of times we'll share that with my clients as well. So began like, that helped me in my eating disorder journey. So what's going to help me now? And the day that I decided that I am well, and I knew life was going to be different on the other side, tactics and strategies are only 20% of healing. 80% is mindset and psychology. And so no one told me that. I figured that out and later learned that just through just more intensive training in how the brain works and the subconscious mind. So both of those journeys it came down to a decision first. So initially I'll walk folks through like my gut brain reset method. Like it's tune into your gut, take care of your gut, and trust your gut. And your gut, to me, when I say gut, it's like the Windex of the body. It's connected to everything. And like a lot of times and I say Windex because if you've ever seen I'm
sorry. Are you talking like my big fat Greek wedding?
Exactly.
Where we use Windex for everything. Okay.
They use Windex on everything.
Talking about ingesting Windex.
Yeah. Please don't do ingest Windex. I was just writing a talk on toxins this morning. Definitely not into Windex. But if you like target the gut, it does, since it impacts your health, your head, and your heart. We've got obviously gut health. The gut is the gateway to health because that's where your immune system is housed. That's where your brain chemicals are housed. You have more neurons, brain cells in your gut than any part of your peripheral nervous system. It's connected to your endocrine system, detoxification, etc. And then when you got your gut head, which would be the gut brain connection, they call it the second brain. I actually want to call it the first brain because 95% of all signals to the brain actually come from the gut.
Well, Dr. Tom O'Brien says that all the time. He's like, with every 2 signals that the brain is sending to the gut is sending like 8 back.
Exactly. It's and then gut heart would be just more the figurative. It's like going with your gut. You hear that in your life. It's like, are you going with your gut, or what does your gut say? To me, that's like, what does your heart say? And then you have polyvagal theory, which is gut, brain, and heart actually are connected through the vagus nerve. So there's a lot of connection there. So when I talk about rewiring that gut brain connection, or doing a total gut reset, tune into your gut, take care of your gut, trust your gut is a process I'll take folks through. And initially, like just in a first, like interaction with a client, I'll walk them through like kind of that process to get a very grounded understanding of what it is you really want. So tuning into your gut is just getting awareness of what is the current story you are operating on. And there could be multiple stories. And so I'll have clients and would challenge you listening to this to just do a brain dump for yourself of like, what is the story I'm telling myself, or the stories? So, and maybe the stories you're also taking on from other, like we were talking about, you're always going to struggle with X, or like, this is manageable, but it's not curable. Or even a diagnosis can be a story. Like if you choose to accept that diagnosis, or I am anorexic, I am a patient with Lyme disease, like we can kind of take on that Sherpa bag, or I always struggle to lose weight. So brain dump as many stories as you can related to health, and then identity as well, because a lot of times our story is linked to identity and it's how we're operating under. Then from there, taking care of our gut. And this is like where we get into that as if mindset. So taking care of my gut. If I was 10 pounds less, if weight loss is one of my goals, or if I was healed, like, how would I speak to myself? Who is healthy, thriving you is what taking care of your gut, that step is all about. So I'll then have my clients do a brain dump of like, who is it that you want to be? And say these in I am statements. So as you think, therefore you will become. So number one is, I am healed, deciding to say that was super liberating for me. When I wake up in the morning, I am full of energy, or the way that I speak to myself is like with love, not hate. And so and you can get as granular as you want on this taking care of your gut step, down to the like, this is how I nourish myself. This is how I spend my time in my day. This is the type of exercise and relationship I have with movement. Like, is Healthy Thriving me on a Stairmaster for 8 hours every day? Or does she have balance of movement? Is she able to miss a workout and not freak out? Yes. And so like beginning to get as granular in whatever like area that you're wanting to improve in, and how you feel, as well as how you operate. And then lastly, taking care of your gut and tuning into your gut is trusting your gut. And so this is where we'll develop a mantra, or mantras. I call them power statements or incantations. And these can be for multiple different sects of your health. So for example, when I was going through mold, my mantras were, I am strong, I'm resilient, my body has the perfect blueprint of health and healing inside. And I like the power of threes. So to pick 3 power statements that really you can cellularly embody and believe or begin to believe. When I was going through my eating disorder journey, there was like a very popular Operation Beautiful campaign going around like in the nation, where there would be these sticky notes of like, I am beautiful. Honestly, when I would say that, I was like, I don't feel that. So that you have to have a statement that you feel energized about and that you can begin to embody, and to speak those in the I am. And then develop with that mantra. It's a neutralizer for when that old story starts to come up in your head, like to fire off that mantra. And to develop a practice as well, like morning and evenings are good bookends to begin to kind of like flex that muscle. But what you'll find, and what you will find, is that it is a neutralizer, that old story begins to diminish less and less, because we are the stories we tell ourselves. So if I'm starting to vibe at a new frequency of the I am healed, I begin to believe that the more I'm saying that, and really neutralizing, like when a flare would come up, like with the mold, for example. I did this in a hotel room when I was on the back end of some of my healing journey. As we know, hotels tend to be very moldy. It's a problem I am wanting to solve. But like in a flare state, starting to get shortness of breath, brain fog. I'm strong, I'm resilient, I have the perfect blueprint of health and healing inside. I said that in rounds for about 10 minutes, to the point where my brain felt like a cartoon where they get hit over the head, and just like, wow, forgot about the mold reaction, was able to enjoy the rest of the conference that I was there for, and to sleep in the hotel and not have to move in 5 rooms.
I hope people just heard exactly the power of what you said, because it is probably one of my biggest heartbreak when I'm working, especially with Lyme and mold clients, is they poo-poo the power of the mind work that I have in my course, right? They want to jump right into treatment. Always, what did you do for treatment? What do you do for treatment? And this is part of the reason why I have guests like you on, is to continue to spread that word that there is so much more to healing than just treatment. And really what's going on between your ears is going to be one of your most powerful free tools that you have, right? So thank you for continuing to bring that in, and like I said, just continuing to state that journey, right? That it's not all about treatment.
Definitely. Well, and people told me that on the back end of my mold journey as well. Like I kind of poo-pooed it for a minute of like, it's a lot of times called limbic system work, or like, it seems like you have to do these things for hours per day. And it's really things you don't have to do hours per day. No. It's just like, whipping out that neutralizer, that fire extinguisher of like what's happening in here, to do that about face.
It's incredible. Like I've, Dr. Amy Apigian, who, I met at Mindshare, she does the biology of trauma. She teaches somatic experiencing exercises that literally take 30 seconds that you can do a couple times a day to get that nervous system right out of fight or flight and into rest and digest. And that's where all the magic happens. But that's what we're talking about, is just getting control again over our minds, and then our minds can help heal the body.
100%. So
that's the last, we got about 5 more minutes to go. So kind of what lasting nuggets do you kind of want to fire off before we end?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Always have a lot of little nuggets, but I mean, I think there is a physical piece of healing as well. So I don't negate that in my work that I do with clients. And I think I've found a lot of the foundations, even for those that are like following the cleanest and most pristine diet and on tons of supplements, a lot of times are my sickest patients, not only because like this brain work is very important, and sometimes just the foundations can go missing of like, I talk a lot about gut love, figuratively and physically. And so, and coming from a more like olive branch approach to your body within like food, for example. So a healthy gut is going to be one that is able to digest and absorb a variety of different foods, and not maybe be wrecked as well when you like go on a vacation and you happen to eat something that had seed oils in it or whatever it is that you're completely avoiding. So like 100% clean and pristine is not necessary to heal. And so kind of like hygiene hypothesis, I talk a lot about a little dirt never hurt and helping build up the oral tolerance. But there's 5 gut love habits I teach my clients just from a physical perspective that I think can be helpful. And just to kind of do a gut check with yourself. Are these, am I doing these to the nth degree that I can? And these are things I have to check in with myself too. Number 1 is just hydration with a pure quality water and minerals. So a lot of times people are drinking lots of water. Maybe we're drinking lots of tap water, or maybe we're drinking lots of water, but like not absorbing it. We're peeing like a racehorse. And that's where like minerals, and I love humic fulvics for that reason. Number 2 is just boosting digestion. We aren't what we eat. We are what we absorb and digest. And so chewing your food really well. I love going to like anywhere I go out to eat and just people watching and just seeing chew, swallow is a common, like we're swallowing a chunk of chicken versus like a liquefied piece of chicken. As well as like enzyme and digestive support can be helpful for boosting digestion. Gallbladder health is oftentimes underlooked, and a big cause of like SIBO and bloating, etc. So I love digestive bitters as well. Number 3 is just fuel, and fueling with an abundance mindset, again, versus a restriction mindset. What can I have versus what can't I have? And eating within like an 80-20%, like 80-20, meaning like 80% of the time I'm eating real whole foods, 20% of the time letting life happen. And then after fuel, I like move and rest, or work and play is kind of like that habit stack. And so optimizing circadian rhythms, sun, light exposure, going to impact how you are resting physically. And then moving, just like in a variety of ways, in a balance of ways. So again, I was working out 8 hours a day. That looks way different nowadays, and doing a variety of movements. Chronic cardio is usually not your best friend for healing. And then lastly, bookending, I call it energize, but bookending your day with a morning and evening routine. And that would be a great place to bring in your mantra as well, to really you happen to the day versus letting the day happen to you. That is
absolutely gorgeous. I love that morning and evening routine. I'm just taking notes.
Yes.
Making sure I get all the juiciness down in the show notes as well. But no, this is absolutely beautiful. And thank you again for being so vulnerable and telling us, your story and how you work with clients. So, shameless plug time. How do people find you? What are you putting out there right now?
Definitely. So drlauren.com is my easiest, and just that's my handle on all my social media. Lauryn has a Y with it though, not an E. So like Lauryn Hill. And then totalgutreset.com is about to roll out here in the fall as well. And that's where my house of just the process that I work with clients, my book, as well as just some helpful products I've developed that really are quality products bringing into the world. I'm not a big pill pusher in general, but from a supplement perspective, I found there are some quality formulas that I've been able to put together to help people as well.
That's incredible. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for, like I said, just sharing with us everything. I knew this was going to be awesome. I've heard you speak somewhere else before. I can't remember where, but I just was like, oh, I have to have her on because
Yeah.
what a beautiful, we could stay stuck in the sad, but no, it's inspiring. It's not what we were just talking about this beforehand. It's not what happens to us. It's what happens for us. It was funny. There was a documentary guy at the last Mindshare, and I was too late to get into the documentary, but it was such a fluke because one of the costume nights, I got my food, I sat, put my stuff down at a table, went to get my food. When I came back, somebody had moved me out of my seat like I was in high school, right? Like I thought my head was going to explode. So I grumble, I take my bag and I move to a different chair down the line, right? And I'm sitting with this dude that I don't know, and I'm very upset. And come to find out, he was one of the producers of the documentary. And because I sat there and had this conversation with him, I ended up being in the documentary with people like Dr. Tom O'Brien and
I
some like
love
really
that.
big names. So, it's just one of those beautiful examples of life's not happening to us, it's happening for us. And it's what kind of mindset, what blessing could possibly come out of this? Because usually there's always some gift in the gold. People with Lyme get infuriated when they hear me talk that way. I'm like, what gift from Lyme disease? And they're like, there's no gift from Lyme disease. I'm like, there is absolutely a gift from Lyme disease.
Yeah.
But so yes, so again, this helps me not to sound insane, and this is what it takes to heal, because I had 3 autoimmune, Lyme, mold. You had 5 autoimmune, an eating disorder, Lyme and mold. It is
Yeah.
possible, people. Don't give up. What's that story you're telling yourself? And make sure to reach out to Dr. Lauryn and other practitioners who are similar, like-minded, philosophies. At the end of the day, stay healthy.
Mhm.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode. Even if you found one little piece of inspiring nugget in it, this is how we change people's lives. This is how people get better. This is how people get hope. So please make sure that you are liking, sharing, and subscribing. Stay tuned for the next episode. You're not going to want to miss it. And while you're at it, head to my website, thelymeboss.com, and make sure you download your free video series, Real Cooking for Real Life. Learn amazing, delicious meals in 20 minutes or less. Learn why and how we cook certain things that are toxin-free, free of contaminants, and how to get a delicious, healthy meal under 20 minutes. You're not going to want to miss out. That's thelymeboss.com.